Welcome to Harley on the Headlines. I take a look at some of the more interesting stories of the day, maybe have a few words about them. Thank you for joining, for liking, following, subscribing. It does make a huge difference. It is the easiest way that you can let others know that you find something worthwhile in these visits, and I do appreciate it. Everything seems to be about politics these days. It's regrettable that it's so. So here's something way different. One of the strangest cases to come along in a long, long while. A couple of young people had a wreck in a car in Flagler County in Florida, flying down I-95 like everyone else. They were fighting, arguing. She was pregnant. He had sent a text or two back to a woman in New York where he used to live. He claimed it was just about football. He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. The old friend, girlfriend maybe, loved the Eagles. The new girlfriend, the pregnant one who was driving, was not satisfied with that football explanation and started driving kind of crazy, going faster and faster, doing nearly 100. Then she swerved back and forth and said, "I don't care what happens, you'll get what you deserve." Drove off the road and slammed into a tree. At least that's what the man told police when he woke up from the coma he had been in since February. And investigators say that story does explain and does perfectly fit what was told by the event data recorder, which many newer cars have these days. Well, the man got somewhat better, used a wheelchair to get around, and he was in physical therapy and talking about doing a sports podcast. He loved football, remember? Then he got pneumonia and died earlier this month. Now the young woman, she's 24, has been charged with vehicular homicide because he died of complications from the wreck, as well as charges of reckless driving, causing serious injury, and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, the car. She had the baby, pregnant when she allegedly drove off the road, remember? The baby's fine, and the family thinks he was the father. But even though he was taking parenting classes when pneumonia took him out, paternity had not officially been established. It's a mess. That's the story. More to come. Big stuff from President Trump. Of course, his meeting with China's Xi Jinping is big news, but even bigger, maybe, is the nuclear weapons situation. The president has ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing and do it immediately. Why? Well, because Russia has been testing nuclear weapons, including a Navy torpedo. And this week, Russia says it tested a new nuclear missile that can go more than 8,000 miles. Can you spell Cold War? President Trump says it doesn't have to come to that, but the U.S. has to keep pace with other superpowers who are continually testing and trying to improve their weaponry, trying to catch the U.S. In the meantime, Trump and Putin have stopped talking about Ukraine. Just doesn't look good. Not any way you look. Now, about that meeting with Xi, they tell us it went well. Trump says he has new deals with China. Tariffs will be coming down against China to less punitive levels. They still have a long way to go. Tariffs on China combined are at about 47%. That's down only about 10 points. There's good news for farmers. China's agreed to buy 25 million tons of soybean each year for the next 3 years. China is expected to reduce the fentanyl smuggling trade into the U.S. Fentanyl is poisonous and deadly. It kills 1.5 times as many Americans every year as died in the entire Vietnam War. Rare earths and minerals will continue to be available to the U.S. for at least another year. But none of those things have come to signatures on agreements yet. They are expected based on cabinet-level negotiations, and both Presidents Trump and Xi who have declared they can and expect to make it all happen. South Korea is going to build a nuclear-powered submarine in the shipyards in Philadelphia. China is expected to buy a lot more oil and gas from the U.S. All in all, President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say the U.S. should bring in a couple of $1 trillion in additional business from this trip to the East. America does have enemies in our midst, even at some of the highest levels of political power. This comes from the required filing of the Federal Elections Commission, required of candidates for office. They're supposed to chronicle where the political donations actually go. At issue, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. She's one of the so-called squad of uber-liberal members of Congress led by AOC. Omar's campaign has given $1,000 to the Palestine House of Freedom, which has an office just down the street from the U.S. Capitol. The group's website says it is dedicated to the liberation of Palestine and to the dismantling of the apartheid state. In other words, the dismantling of Israel. The group set up shop in Washington to embark, and this is a quote, on an aggressive education campaign targeting lawmakers, staffers, the media, and the general public. In other words, Ilhan Omar directly supports a lobbying and propaganda effort aimed at the destruction of Israel and the education of Americans. What I've mentioned there is but one suction point on one tentacle of the octopus that is the jihadist Muslim propaganda effort underway in this country. Tentacles that snake into many universities, activist and violence-prone groups, and even into the halls of Congress and in many neighborhoods of cities and towns. Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim who is running for mayor of New York City, who declares himself a democratic socialist, is nothing less than an actual jihadist. That's according to New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who, by the way, is now leading Kathy Hochul in the New York governor's race. Mamdani's father, Mahmoud Mamdani, is a professor at Columbia University. He teaches that Hitler learned how to be Hitler from Abraham Lincoln, that the Holocaust has its roots in America, and specifically in the life and political style of Abe Lincoln. There's video. It's available. It would be laughable if it weren't so stupid and evil. The most recent political polls show former Governor Andrew Cuomo closing the gap on Mamdani in the New York mayor's race, and Curtis Sliwa is in third place with just enough support to make sure Mamdani wins, kind of like a modern-day Ross Perot. There are some truly crazy, evil people in this world. In London, a woman is dead and her husband is in jail charged with murder. Police say he killed her and literally skinned her because she refused to make him soup. Now, in a science fiction movie, humanoid robots can lift 10 times as much as the strongest human, right? Run like the wind and shoot at us with computerized accuracy. Well, researchers in South Korea say they have developed a new chemical structure that can be used to create artificial muscles capable of lifting 4,000 times its own weight. And yet it could be used in future robots and make them super strong. What I'm wondering is, can this material be used to create artificial muscles for humans suffering from MS or some other wasting disease? There is a robot, by the way, huge thing, that plays a pretty good game of badminton. It has 4 legs. They call it Animal, like animal, but Annie. You got to get it. And it's said to be good enough to hang with a human for a 10-shot rally. Badminton, 10-shot rally. Pretty smart. Has an AI brain. So it has a mind that's way faster than its mechanicals. Yeah, me too. Back to China briefly. The first World Humanoid Robot Games is underway there, like an Olympics for robots, track and field events, robots playing soccer, robots taught to fight, kickboxing. All right, get your mind around that. Won't be long before there is a super strong, humanoid, AI-thinking kickboxer robot. Let your brain travel down that road. Well, that's it for today's Harley on the Headlines. I want to thank you for being here and for doing your social media thing to help people find us. Like, follow, subscribe, drop us a line. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm Harley Carnes, and we'll see you soon.